On behalf of the entire board and staff, welcome to the Mental Health Association of the Southern Tiers Food for Thought project. This time of the year, we would normally ask you to join us for our annual Men Who Cook Amateur Chef Competition fundraiser. However, due to the safeguards surrounding the pandemic, this year we decided to forego the event and give something back to the community. We've called upon our 2019 chefs to change the focus this year and morph from men who cook to men who care. Instead of calling on their culinary skills, we've asked them to share some of the struggles and the experiences that they've personally faced during the last few months as they've navigated their way through COVID-19. We hope you'll find meaning and value in their reflections, and we hope you'll take away some food for thought to help you navigate these often trying times.
Hello, my name is Ryan Mead, and I'm a partner with him and Howard & Cattell, and I'm here to share some of my experiences with COVID and how I've dealt with the pandemic in the last few months. One of the first things I noticed is that there's no new normal, and that everybody has a different way of how they're managing their anxiety, fear, and uncertainty with respect to the pandemic. One thing that I've noticed is to be really compassionate with people and to realize that there's no regular way for someone to respond to what was usually a reasonable request. I've seen things take forever. I've seen things take 2 weeks when it should have taken 2 days. No matter what, I had to stay compassionate with the people that I'm working with and make sure that they knew that it didn't matter really when they got back to me. It was okay with however they responded. Another tip that I've been effective with and helped me get past some of the day-to-day stress was just to manage my own internal stress thresholds. And that is by getting a really good night's sleep, waking up, having a set schedule during the day, having set hours of work when I'm working remotely, and then when I'm done with work, try to do something to relieve stress. So if that's exercise, I try to walk every day. Sometimes it's reading a book. Sometimes it's getting out, playing some golf or fishing. And last but not least, I am a man who cooks, so I have been getting out on the grill and doing some new and fun different things for dinner for my family. Again, just having that set schedule and having some points of release have really helped me manage my stress and get through the current crisis.
I'm Steve Cornwell, former Broome County District Attorney and amateur chef. Well, at least at the Men Who Cook competition, that is. As you know, I started doing the Men Who Cook competition sponsored by Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier. And in this competition, the local chefs come and show their stuff, and we're all packed into a banquet hall with several hundred people. So obviously this year that wasn't going to happen, but this is a great cause and a great organization, and happy to be here and talk a little bit about some things associated with what's going on today and with the coronavirus known as COVID, and that's the last time I'll say it because I think people are looking for something else to say. So what I would say with this is there's a lot of different stress that's been caused by everything that's going on today. People are worried about their health, family members' health, their children going back to school, their job, employment. So there's a lot of stress that people have, and they have to cope with it. And as an attorney, I've always been in a high stress occupation, handling major criminal cases and things of that nature. So I've had to find ways to cope with stress. That's how I came about to do the cooking and the cooking competitions. And I remember doing them. I tried to get a couple of local celebrities to help me, hopefully to win, and I had local radio personality Louis G, Jordan Patch, the father of giraffes out there at Animal Adventure, and Damian Cornwell, local entrepreneur, famous kind of for his being a drummer in Splash. So we've tried everything that we could to win the competition, and fortunately last year we did just that, so it was very exciting. We're going to miss that this year, but want to talk a little bit about, the outlets that you have to deal with the stress. So with everything going on, you have to deal with stress. And really to deal with stress, it's important to stay healthy. Eat good food, right? Change your diet so you have a well-balanced diet. But the problem is when people get stressed, they generally eat bad food, chicken wings, hamburgers, pizza, and all those high calorie, high salt foods. And that's the worst thing for you. When your body's dealing with stress, you need something to de-stress, and you need to eat healthier. So cooking is perfect for that. It's a perfect opportunity for you to do that. So I always recommend that people find something that they want to make, focus on it, and keep it simple. Pick one thing. Maybe you want to start with an appetizer or a soup or a main entree. So I would say pick one thing and go with it. And a few tips would be, when you do that, you want to start off easy. Like I said, start off simple, and you want to have all your ingredients laid out, everything prepped, measured, ready to go, right out on the countertop. Makes it a lot easier in a hectic time. And the kitchen can be a hectic place. But you're having fun while you're doing it. You're generally going to eat better, which is certainly good for you, and it's going to help alleviate the stress. And more importantly, you're taking a break. And it's very important you take a break to clear your mind. Turn the TV off. You can't watch news all day long in today's day and age. And you can't stay on social media nonstop all day long. So what I do is I go dark. I turn it off. I choose what I'm going to cook and make a great meal, and share it with my wife or our kids when we have our weekly family dinner. So I would encourage everybody to do that. And I took it one step further recently. Must be because of more stress, I guess. But I decided to take up gardening, organic gardening. So that's another way that you can take a break from all the stress that's going on and be out in the garden. And you can really do this all year long now. There's different methods, and you just do some herbs inside or different things of that nature. So it's just a good opportunity to take a break, take away from the stress that you have. You feel so positive when you produce something, and in the end, when you see your garden growing and you're harvesting and picking those veggies, or when you're making that dish and it smells good, it looks good, and then you put a smile on someone's face when they eat it. And that's really what we did in this cooking competition. I missed that interaction with all of you, all the handshaking and high fives and hugs along the way. It's been a great opportunity to get out in public and meet people for a great cause. And I hope that people will find ways to continue to be happy and be healthy, and don't forget to cook.
Hello, Southern Tier. I'm David Maione, president of the Night Shift Cleaning Service in Endicott, and I'm here today on behalf of Men Who Care. I've been a participant in Men Who Cook with the Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier for several years, and unfortunately, due to this rotten COVID, we can't have Men Who Cook this year, so we are having Men Who Care. And I thought I would talk a little bit today about a few items. Number one, having contact with folks who can't get out. I think with COVID, we're finding out that many folks are not necessarily immune to getting sick, but not showing many symptoms. So I have been focusing largely on taking care of my parents, who are in the group that we really have to protect. They're elderly, 80 and 84. So I think we have to be aware of the fact that some older folks really have to avoid this virus or disease, as you might call it. My parents live at the Good Shepherd home up in Enwell, and I spoke with several other children of parents who are up there, and they said they're not visiting their folks, and their folks are so lonely and isolated. So I do go quite frequently. I bring them food, I wear my masks, I have rubber gloves that I'll use to keep them safe and isolated, but I bring them food a lot in the theme of Men Who Cook, sometimes food that I cook, and sometimes food that I pick up at some of their favorite spots for lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever. But I think it's very important to keep seeing some of the isolated members of our community to make them feel that they are not alone out there in all this craziness. I've heard stories of folks going to see their parents through glass, knocking on the window, holding up signs, some really charming stories. I have taken it further with some social distancing when I go to see them, being very careful that if I am sick and not knowing it, that I don't infect them. So I stay away with distance, I wear my face masks, rubber gloves if necessary. So they get a lot of attention from me, in this crazy time, and I can tell that they really appreciate it. Well, thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. I'd be lying if I told you I'm not going to miss Men Who Cook, because it's a great event. I enjoy the cooking tremendously, and I won a couple years as well. But I also enjoyed going from table to table, all the men that were involved, the women judges. It's a fantastic organization at MHAST, and I really miss the event, but I'm very happy to be part of Men Who Care. So stay safe, stay healthy, and stay clean.
Something I find hard to handle during these times is how easy it actually is to stay inside, sit in your office chair, do your daily tasks for work. It's easy to do that, but it's also easy to remember to get up, take 5 minutes, take a quick stroll outside, even just go out on your front porch, take a glass of water with you, and just listen to nature, look at the sky, look at the clouds, wave to your neighbor or your travelers passing by. It's easy during this pandemic to forget that that is what's going on right now, that you go outside or you want to go somewhere, and when you get to wherever it is you're going, you get out of the car, you start walking towards the front door, you're thinking you're gonna have a good time, and then you'll think, wait, I need to get my mask on. I need to make sure that I've washed my hands or put my hand sanitizer on. It's those little things that are easy to forget, but that all of us need to remember. While not all of us have been impacted directly by this pandemic, it's hard not to know at least one person who's been directly affected, be it themselves or someone that they know and love. Let's remember, this pandemic affects us all, even if at times it feels like it doesn't. During this time, let's remember to go outside, have some fun with friends and family, maybe go to a park and throw a frisbee around. Join me and let's go outside and have some fun.
So the last several months have been very challenging for a lot of people. A lot of things have been removed from us that we're used to in our daily lives. As adults, parents, we're very sensitive to the role that sports play for our kids socially and as far as activity-wise. But sometimes we skip out on the importance of that for us as adults and what we gain out of that on a week-to-week or even day-to-day basis. For adults, sports can play a very unique role for them. It can be a great icebreaker for people to be able to meet new people, whether they're in a different point in their life and they want to, try to interact with new groups of people, or they're moving to a new area. Very important for friendships, bonding with people. A lot of times the people that you meet through your sports and your recreational adult leagues can become your best friends, people you rely on, that you talk to a lot. Sports for adults obviously are a great excuse to go and get exercise. A lot of us don't want to focus on potentially going to the gym or dedicating that, and instead we focus on, okay, when's our next game, when's our next chance to see our friends and whatnot. And then obviously the mental health benefits of it, where we can go out and do something to kind of break away from everyday life and see different friends and kind of have that specific time, if you will, to disconnect from our everyday stresses. During this time where it's been very difficult and a lot of us were denied the opportunity or the time to spend with our friends and doing sports and things that we love. Myself and a number of my friends, we focused on doing Zoom meetings or online digital meetings to kind of have fun and recreate that banter back and forth. Trying to dedicate some time specifically that maybe we would use for our sport activities, for individual exercise or other physical health. And then also, trying to dedicate time to maybe other things that have been weighing down on us, whether they're projects that we've been putting off, yard work that we constantly say, hey, I'd like to do this landscaping, but never have time or energy to do it, or finishing the basement that you've been staring at for 3 years and thinking that your wife would be really happy if you did that finally. But for myself personally, I took a silver lining out of all this is having some time to spend with my newborn son. He's 8 months old now, so over the last 4 months, that's been some very precious time that maybe in the past we wouldn't have had as much for him with everything else that would be going on in a normal situation. Over the last 4 months, my wife and I have been really able to dedicate a lot of our time and energy to him, more so than probably what we normally would have been able to. So There's positives and there's negatives for everybody out of what's happened recently, but I think it's really important to just focus your energies and focus your mental well-being towards those positives and take the good out of it all.
Hello everyone, my name is Mike Boyle, and for the last 3 years I have been very fortunate to be a part of the Men Who Cook fundraising event put on by the Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier. Unfortunately, with the COVID pandemic crisis going on, the Mental Health Association this year is unable to put this great event on for the local community and to raise funds for our efforts. But with that, they've asked some of the participants to get together on camera and talk about our personal struggles that we have come across in the last 3, 4, 5 months since this pandemic has kind of hit the area. A few of the things that I do, and I thought about it for the last couple of days, 3 of the things that I really do quite more now than before. One of them is projects at home. Unfortunately for my wife, though, I am still the 90%er. I do 90% of the project and leave 10% before I move on to the next. So she's still working on me on that one to try to get a little bit better with that. She'd rather see 95 to 100. But I'm the 90%er, I think, in that realm. But I have a lot of projects and I do enjoy working indoors and outdoors, so depending upon what the weather conditions were, I was in and outside the last bunch of months working on the house and the yard and everything thereabouts. One of the other things that I've done a lot more these days with my kids and my wife on occasion is we have game night. Although game night, in the past used to be maybe once every full moon, game night now is 2, 3 times a week. So it's either that or at the end of the day it's a good movie. We'll, thankfully we have some Netflix and some Amazon, and we'll watch a good movie. We'll decide on a good movie. Not everybody decides together, but we do our best to make sure we get most of the people happy. I enjoy time with my family. I enjoy time that's spent. It's unfortunate that we're in this circumstance, but as we are, I have to look at the positive that's coming out of it, and spending time with my family has definitely been one, because I think everybody understands today's world. It's hectic, go, 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 especially with 2 teenagers and a 20-something. So it's rare that we used to spend time together, in the last 4 or 5 years. So now it's nice that we've been able to do that. So looking at the silver lining a little bit there. And the last thing that I said 3 things mainly that I do a lot. I cook, and again, this is how I was introduced to MHAST and the Men Who Cook program to begin with. Is I love to cook. I'm doing a lot more cooking now, doing a lot more in terms of all the meals of the day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And even snacks and baking on occasion, but I really am spending a lot more time doing that. I'm enjoying that quite a bit. So those are some of the things that I'm doing to relieve stress. Now, I'd like to speak for a minute about my job and talk professionally. I am a park manager at Shenango Valley State Park. And being a park manager of a facility like that, there's a lot of outdoor recreational opportunities. We have so many different opportunities out there. People can just walk around the park in a casual walk. People can bring their pets with them, walk their pets. People can do some hiking on some of our 25 miles plus of trails that we have, do something a little bit more strenuous. We have some phenomenal mountain biking trails that we utilize, that people utilize quite often. We have fishing on one of our main lakes, and we have kayaking. Unfortunately, we don't have any kayaks to offer, but if you have your own and you're not looking for a place to go, bring your kayaks out and put them in the water. We also have an 18-hole golf course. I've seen a lot of novice golfers in the last 2 or 3 months come out. I think if you go to Dick's Sporting Goods store, you probably won't be able to find a kayak or a new set of clubs around, and some of the other sporting goods stores around as well. But that I think is a good problem to have. I think what that means is that people are finding ways to get out and enjoy the outdoors. And lastly, we have our camping season is opened up. So we're now not seeing just 1, 2, 3 people together. We're seeing groups of 6 to 8 people together, which again is well within the realm of social distancing allowance. And yet at that same time, people are being able to get out and socialize a little bit more. And I don't think there's anything more beneficial for that than doing that. There's plenty of other things that you can do in the outdoors to keep yourself occupied and give yourself a little bit of mental, physical, and emotional wellness. So good luck.
Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Franklin from Progressive Dental. And for those of you who don't already know me, one personal interest of mine that has helped get me through this difficult time is cooking for my family and friends. For me, few things are more gratifying than seeing a huge smile on their faces after they've enjoyed a homemade cooked meal. Traditional Mediterranean dishes from Greece and Turkey are usually on the daily menu. I tend to prefer cooking with fresh seasonal produce rather than frozen foods or ingredients that are out of season. It can be very beneficial, especially at this time of year, to have a home garden of fresh vegetables and herbs. Fresh herbs such as Italian parsley, cilantro, basil, mint, dill, oregano, rosemary, and thyme add tremendous flavor to any dish, and they have been shown to be very beneficial for brain and mental health. Most of what I cook and eat relies on the natural qualities and flavor of fresh seafood, olive oil, fresh vegetables, grains, natural cheeses, fruits, yogurt, honey, and a variety of mixed nuts. To keep things interesting, I try to offer a variety of different dishes on a daily basis with different presentations. Lamb chops, lasagna, and a variety of pasta dishes are also some other family favorites. Custards and puddings with fresh fruits, yogurt with honey, and a variety of sweet cakes and sweet cookies with a variety of mixed nuts are some other family favorite desserts. Although there are many activities that we can participate in to help with our mental and physical well-being during this difficult time, for me, cooking for family and friends surpasses them all. A Mediterranean diet is healthy for both mind and body, where simple fresh ingredients are incorporated and are combined to create complex flavors. The family recipes that I've learned over the years are a genuine reflection of the dishes that I grew up on and are ones that I hope to pass on to my kids. For me, there's no better feeling than seeing my friends and family eat well and always come back hungry for more. Thank you and take care.
Well, welcome to Men Who Care 2020. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. My name is Carl Speicher. I work with M&T Bank, and I've participated in the Men Who Cook for a couple years now, so this was a nice change. I know personally that COVID has been very stressful for me, and these times are crazy. There's a lot of reasons why it's stressful. Work in particular has been more stressful than normal. Customers that we've had for many, many years that are not only customers but friends are facing a lot of problems, and those problems, we talk about those problems with them, and it's almost it's a challenge when you can't help people all the time like we are accustomed to doing. Those challenges become more and more stressful, and the weight of everything starts falling on our shoulders. So I personally started looking for things that might help relieve that stress. I know that there's options like reaching out to the Mental Health Association for one, or talking to a primary care physician, or maybe using your employee assistance program. But there's also things that we can do around the house, and when you had a lot of time, which we all did back in February and March when this all started and we were sheltered in place, my family looked at each other and said, instead of going to the kitchen 15 times a day to get a snack, we should probably start getting outside and doing some physical fitness. We started by hiking, going to some local parks, and we realized we were getting in shape through the hiking, but also just being out in the woods, peaceful, quiet, listening to the quiet itself was a relief. But once we started hiking and started getting more physically active, we started walking and then running. And then we looked at each other, I think around March or April this year, and said, anybody want to start lifting weights? I had lifted weights when I was young. So we all went down to the basement, and we had an old bench, workout bench, and we started lifting. And what we liked about lifting was that from day one, we really started seeing a change almost immediately, because you get more confident. You of course start seeing changes physically, but it's really quick, and so you almost feel like you had a little bit of control. You start saying, hey, I can do something here, and it makes you feel better. So as you improve physically, your confidence goes up. And that has really made a big difference for us. We're spending time productively, and all that physical fitness helps both mentally and physically. I know we're not through the woods yet. There's crazy times all around us. Physical fitness is just one method for feeling better about yourself or your situation. But if that doesn't work for you, look for other methods. You could talk to friends, talk to family, talk to clergy, but reach out. There's lots of support systems available. Please ask for help.
Hi, John Loftus. Welcome to the 2020 Men Who Cook. A little bit different scenario, and we're here just to kind of talk through the challenges of 2020 and COVID-19 and how people can deal with that. Mine is kind of talking about how the family deals with the situation. Personally, from work, I've had to work at home for the past since March. That's a challenge. My wife watches our 6 grandchildren, ages 14 to age 2. So that makes a challenge at home with the home office. So you have to make those adjustments and how you get through those stressors and adjustment. I had to put a door back on my office, so that was one way to cope with it. But some of the things that I've seen my wife do and be able to deal with this situation, right, as we're more confined in our homes and our kids are around, or our grandkids, you know, you implement some little different programs. Not bad to be able to spend that time and kind of focus on what's important, but including them in the morning to make early morning breakfast, right? Teaching the young kids how to crack eggs and make their own breakfast, be independent. Ourselves with our kids who live around locally with our grandkids, we all planted gardens this year. So to get that involvement and be outdoors because we're at home more, what an opportunity to teach young kids, and as the garden grows and they get to go out and start to prick the vegetables, it's kind of different distraction than we normally have. Setting up a standard schedule. When school was still in session, they were doing digital learning. So setting up those times when they're going to take care of the school work and tie that in. It's really just a big adjustment and a thing where being with family is I think a time where we can kind of step back and be thankful for everything we have, right, and not so much look at the negative or the downside. The positive is we're spending more time with our children, so we have to adjust, play cards, relax, and I always think of it, when you're stressed, just spell the word stress backwards. That spells dessert, so go have a piece of pie, a cookie, or a brownie, and just relax, because this will be over. We'll look back on it, and we'll all get through with it.
I'm beginning to miss the Men Who Cook event. I've been doing that for a number of years. I'm not a very good cook, but I like to taste what everyone else is fixing, and I think it's a great way to support the Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier. We were asked to pick a couple items of concern to talk about in regard to COVID-19. The 2 items that I'm interested in is helping organizations like the Mental Health Association and others that are serving needs in our community. During COVID-19, the amount of funding is really dropping off and the needs are increasing significantly. I believe nationwide a 30% increase is being experienced in family abuse, children abuse, mental health, and other issues. So to me, this is a big area that I think that many of us that can need to jump in and support. The second thing I have a concern about is the impact on small business. It's not easy running a small business in upstate New York, and when we're faced with these ups and downs, it makes a very difficult situation for a lot of people. There are steps that we can take. I think one good step that we can take is shopping locally. We're completely changing our buying habits so that we're buying from local stores and local butchers in the community. It's the fastest way to increase the economy, is to increase the overall percent of local buying. The other thing that you can consider is giving. If you're not that impacted by COVID-19, this is a great opportunity to give to others. This is a check. I would normally spend this money in fixing food for $400, but this year I'll give it to the Mental Health Association and hope that others might do the same. The third thing, though, is to increase your degree of volunteerism. We have a lot of needs that are going unmet that people can help out with, even following safe social distancing. New York needs to do a much better job in making use of volunteers. Rotary, it's one of our main missions, is to provide support to communities in need. We believe in broad-based community collaboration involving government and business and industry and the general population to be able to make significant impact. And we need to learn how to do that very well in the Southern Tier. Third is innovation. We are all going to have to innovate to get through this period of time. So that's it. I want to thank the Mental Health Association. This is a great organization. I'm glad to be a part of it. I didn't want to break the tradition, so I sent in a recipe anyway, even though it won't be used, but maybe they'll post it. And basically it's a spare rib and baked bean, a recipe, creamy cornbread, and probably the most important part is a Tuscan grilled corn. You roll that in oil and vinegar, and then a Parmesan cheese mixture including chopped mint and hot red pepper flakes. So at least do that part of the recipe and stay safe this summer.
My name is Matt Murphy. I am a physical therapist and a board-certified clinical specialist in orthopedics, and I work for MHAST. I am here to provide some food for thought on the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on exercise, and both the challenges and the opportunities that have been presented because of that to different individuals. For those individuals that were regularly participating in exercise prior to the shutdown, this likely has posed a significant challenge due to the lack of accessibility to gyms and Pilates studios, yoga studios, CrossFit boxes, personal trainers, etc. And when your routine is affected, especially in terms of exercise, that can be very challenging to work around. There's mountains of evidence out there showing that exercise releases endorphins, which makes us feel good. It can help with stress management, stress reduction, and also helps with an improved sense of mental clarity, which all are exceptionally beneficial and important during these unprecedented and stressful times. So I encourage you to stay as active as you can. Be creative in ways you can work around the lack of accessibility to those gyms and other facilities. Use online resources and really make sure that you stay active, because the worst exercise is the exercise that's not done. For those of you who didn't exercise prior to this, you may be posed with more of an opportunity, whether it's more time or more of an interest and concern with health and wellness. This might be your impetus to now start an exercise program, and that's great. Starting an exercise program is not always easy, and starting that to be successful, you want to make sure that you're setting goals, both long and short-term goals, making sure that you have an idea of the bigger goal in mind, but also making smaller, chunked, and achievable, manageable goals is important as well, so that you feel like you're actually making progress toward the bigger picture and not just stuck where you don't want to be. The American College of Sports Medicine recommends about 150 to 300 minutes per week of vigorous physical activity, and using that as a guideline when you're first getting started might be helpful to being able to allocate that to particular days over the course of a week for programming. One of the biggest mistakes people make is doing too much too soon. This can lead to soreness, burnout, and worst case scenario, injury. So a lot of times when people begin exercise programs, they're very motivated and really want to get after it, but know that grading yourself into the intensity of the exercise is very important to avoid those issues. Also, you want to focus on technique and body control. So kind of piggybacking off what we just talked about, you want to be sure that you're focusing on control and not trying to do things that might be too excessively intense for you to control, as well as increasing reps and volumes in that regard, as opposed to increasing the intensity of the resistance too soon. And lastly, you want to be sure that you're having fun, because if it's something that you really resent or dread doing every day, it's unlikely that you'll stay consistent with it. So we all know the benefits of exercise on our physical, our mental, and our immunological well-being, and I encourage all of you to remain or become as physically active as possible. Thanks for spending a few minutes to listen to what I had to say today. Here are a few online resources to help get you started. Best of luck and stay healthy.
So, 2020 brings COVID-19. That much fun? Not really. A lot of changes for a lot of people. A lot of people thought this was going to be the year. It's probably not the year they thought it was going to be. But there are things that we can do amidst the crappiness going on around us. And what I go by is the 4 S's. So first, we have sports. We got tennis and golf. Those are my 2 personal favorites that practice social distancing and keep in the New York State guidelines and keep me outside working on my tan. And then we have the other S, sagas. And what I mean is really Star Wars. There is enough Star Wars footage out there between work to be able to have fun and still watch one of the best productions ever made. Then our third S is song. Go through all of the songs you went through growing up, from little to old to now, and then recycle them if you have to. You can't stop listening to a good song. And then the 4th S, my personal favorite, that's why I got this guy, is some good food. You gotta have some good food amidst these times going on. And the real S is actually savings though. Go to Visions, they'll help you save too. There's plenty of options there. But one challenge that I've been facing is actually having to work from home for Visions while during this pandemic. You think it's an easy process, but you actually have to take your entire computer system and integrate that into your house. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you have a little one running around like I do, sometimes making sure you have a quiet environment can be quite the ordeal. But we make it work, and we still have to keep things running, and it's just something that you have to give and take. You gotta find that space, but you can't take up the family space because you want your family to still be able to enjoy their life as if the pandemic's not happening, because we definitely know it is. But to the kids who are really young, they don't. So we try to keep it that way in my household. From that, you're just gonna have to find your time, get your work done, and do your best to just keep moving, because the one thing we can all keep doing is saving, eating, watching our favorite movies, and listening to music and playing some golf, or sports in general. Thank you very much for having me on today. I'm really used to men who cook, but I'm all about men who care, so there's some food for thought.
My name's Alan Wilmarth, and it's sad that we won't be able to cook this year, but I really appreciate MHAST having this Men Who Care opportunity in place of that. I think it's important, and one of the things about Men Who Cook that is so important is it brings people together. People from all walks of life come together and share in time of fellowship around food. One of the things that has concerned me as we've talked about social distancing is for many people social distancing transfers into social isolation. We as human beings really are social creatures. We're constructed to be together. We're constructed to interact and not to be living in isolation or in a vacuum. And so my hope for people throughout the course of this COVID crisis is that we not allow ourselves to become isolated. We do need to practice social distancing, but there are wonderful ways to get together even with social distancing. For example, Broome County is blessed with a great number of parks, many of which have hiking trails. And so the ability to go out in a small group of people with social distancing and hike through the woods, observe nature, and be able to spend some time laughing and enjoying the fresh air is one way. Another is fishing. You know, it doesn't cost a lot of money to fish. Many people have been financially impacted, and so they don't have the opportunity to go out and purchase large items. But it doesn't cost a lot to fish, and we have miles and miles of rivers and streams and lakes across Broome County. And most of us probably could almost walk to a fishing spot if we needed to. I also think it's wonderful sometimes just to spend time in nature. There are several bird watching clubs in Broome County, and you can find them simply by searching them on the internet. Learning different species of wildlife who live in our area that oftentimes we just go through our lives and don't ever see. I would really encourage people to get out. Don't allow yourself to become isolated. fresh air and spending time together with other people is good for our mental health. It helps us to sustain our mood. It helps us to feel better in difficult times. It helps us to realize that we're not in this alone. When people become too isolated, it can cause increases in depression, anxiety, and other mental health symptoms, which we really can avoid if we don't allow this to overcome us. Exercise caution, exercise safety, wear your mask, but above all, do not allow this pandemic to isolate you from those that are important. Don't allow yourself to become a victim of it by sacrificing your mental health through too severe of an isolation. I wish all of you the best, and I hope that you each day spend some time celebrating your mental health and finding ways to go out into the community and enjoy celebration of time with each other. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Austin Tanner here with Fox 40. It's no secret that we're in unprecedented times right now with the current COVID-19 pandemic, but I'm here today to hopefully shed a little bit of light onto what you can do to cope with everything that's going on in the world. I've had anxiety for many years, back to my early childhood. I mean, I don't really know what was wrong with me at the time, but after going to my doctors, I finally figured out that I did suffer from anxiety and it ran in my family. But I mean, over the years, I've been okay with it. I've found different ways to cope with it, and I mean, I'm here today and I'm doing just fine with it. You know, especially during these tough times that we've seen, you know, with the coronavirus pandemic, one thing that, I mean, it's hard for me because I'm in media, so I'm constantly around it, but one thing that I've told my friends and my family is just to simply unplug, you know, put the phone down, turn the TV off, try to get away from all the numbers and the facts and everything like that, and you know, just really try to keep away from everything that's going on in the world and really focus on you and those around you. You know what, I get it, it's scary. With all the changes, there's a new sense of normalcy that we're all going through every day. You know, everyone has to wear a mask, everyone has to be 6 feet apart even when you're outside dining with loved ones or with friends. You know, it's a really scary time, but at the end of the day, everything's gonna be okay with the help of, you know, just even at home, with the help of our friends, with our family, with everyone looking out for us, you know, in the state and government levels, we're all gonna be okay. Everyone just has to follow what they're doing, what they're being told to do, and by the end of the day, everything will be fine. One way that I've been coping with everything that's going on, and specifically with my anxiety, I bought this guitar a couple years back, and it's really helped me then, but since then I've sort of slacked a little bit. But with everything going on, I decided to kind of pick it back up and give it another shot, and I've just been really happy while doing it. Well, I was happy to be a part of Men Who Cook last year. I can't wait for the event to come back next year and really show my skills as a true chef in the area.
Hi guys, my name is Wes. I'm a substance abuse counselor at the Addiction Center in Broome County. I've been a participating chef in Men Who Cook for 4 years now. So today I want to talk with you guys about anxiety. We're also going to talk about how that plays into and correlates with substance use, because both of those have had an upward trend since COVID-19, since all this has started in March. So the first thing I want to say before we move forward is anxiety in itself is a symptom, right? It's something that we physically see and feel. It's something that plays into mental health, and there's no shame with mental health. I think a lot of people, they don't want to admit to it. We don't want to look weak. You know, we want people to think everything's good. One thing I always tell clients is, you know, we understand we have to take care of our physical bodies, right? We understand we can't eat a bag of potato chips for every meal and still maintain a healthy weight, a healthy skin, you know, all the things that we need to do to keep ourselves physically healthy. We understand that. But oftentimes I find that we as humans, we neglect our inner being, our minds and our emotional part. And unfortunately, it can have devastating consequences if left unmanaged and unchecked. So with anxiety, one thing I want to say is there's no shame in it, right? If you're someone that deals with anxiety, maybe COVID, has actually created anxiety from the situation. It in itself is a very anxiety-driving scenario. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty. People have lost jobs, people aren't sure, financially how things are going to go. There are things that have been taken outside of our control. For a while there, we couldn't really see friends, we couldn't see family. So I think a lot of people felt very disconnected and very alone from others. And coupled with your thoughts and everything going on, it just sort of built up to become, I think for many people, very unmanageable. And so in response to that, people have been trying to find different ways. How do I manage this? How do I take care of this? In my profession, one thing I see a lot of is substance use, right? Marijuana and alcohol are probably the two most common ones. Alcohol is legal, it's very accessible. And marijuana, we have this perception that, there's nothing really that bad with marijuana. A lot of people actually think marijuana is going to kind of solve all of their problems. I do want to say that marijuana is not going to solve all your problems. It's not the worst thing out there, but you need to understand that marijuana is only going to cover what's going on. It's not actually going to address the deeper issue, right? And when we talk about mental health, whether it be anxiety or depression, PTSD, those are the three most common diagnoses that I see in my profession. Those are all symptoms of something that has happened to that individual, whether that be an area that's unmet, whether that be something traumatic that's happened, right? So the issue isn't, oh, I have anxiety. The issue is there's something that's causing my anxiety, right? So the trick comes into how do you address that deeper issue, that root, and how do you remove that so that way the symptom of the anxiety in this case is removed, okay? So there's two things where I want to talk with you guys about in hoping that will kind of help manage a little bit. So the first thing we're going to talk about is identifying that thought, sort of capturing it and what you can do with that. And the second thing we're going to do is talking about real quick like a project or something that you can do where you can kind of have a handle and control over, okay? So the first thing is, again, that idea of capturing a thought, right? So when a thought comes into your head, there are, I don't know about you, all throughout the day, there's thoughts coming in your head, good, bad, anything in between, right? Our minds, in my opinion, are very much, they're a battlefield, right? It's constant barrage of things, whether it be thinking about you or thinking about other people. And the issue is not the thoughts. The issue is how we respond to them and what we do to them. I always say with clients that I work with, the problem isn't thinking about, hey, I want to go and I want to pick up and use, I want to get high. The issue is when you think about it and then you follow through with that, right? Now, anxiety is a little bit different, but it still can be the result of a thought you have in your mind. So, for example, if you come into a situation where you feel very uncomfortable, you're not going to act like your normal self, right? The anxiety is going to be there and it's going to build. Maybe you begin to think, oh, I look funny, I look weird, how do I sound? You get very self-conscious about yourself. And those thoughts begin to feed into each other, and again, it sort of morphs into this ball where all of a sudden you now think, well, the best thing for me to do is to just retreat and hide away and get away from all of it, right? Anxiety has this very, very real way of affecting our lives and making it difficult to sleep, difficult to concentrate, difficult to think, difficult to sometimes maintain a job or relationships because your mind is always preoccupied with what's causing the anxiety. So when you can take those thoughts and you can identify them, so again, for example, well, I feel uncomfortable, I must look weird, right? Take that thought and counter it with something else, right? If you can counter that thought with, no, you don't look weird, you just think you look weird, right? Take it away from being a fact to being an opinion. And I have to do that all the time with myself because believe me, I walk into plenty of situations where I feel out of place, I don't know anyone, I don't know the environment. So immediately, my defenses go up, my anxiety kicks in, and how am I going to react to this and deal with this? And one of the things I have to remind myself almost daily is, okay, what you're thinking, is it factual or is it just an opinion? And if you can begin to train yourself to think that it's just your perception, it does begin to reduce that anxiety a little bit. It's not that I look weird, I think I look weird. And when you begin to remove the power from that thought, that anxiety does begin to go down and reduce itself. The other thing that you can do, and this is kind of a silly thing, but it actually works very effectively for a lot of people, is you take word association. So you take a thought and you try to boil it down to one word. So again, enrolling with this idea of looking weird, right, or sounding funny. I might say that, you know, I'm weird, right? That's the thought, I'm weird. So you take the word weird and you associate it with something. And I would say strange, strange makes me think doctor, doctor makes me think medical, medical makes me think hospital, and so on and so forth. And so you do that one time, and then you would go back and you would do it again, but this time a little bit quicker. And then a third time, and even a little bit quicker. And you do it as many times as you need to. And the point of the exercise is that it eventually gets to the point where that thought, it loses its power, it loses its grip. It's not building up to become this monster over you. You're actually kind of slowly chipping away at its base to where it no longer has any impact on you, okay? The second thing that you can do is a big cause for anxiety is feeling out of control. Look at what's been going on with COVID. As a nation, a lot of people feel very out of control. You know, we see these riots going on. We see people angry and frustrated. We see people really not treating each other, in my opinion, anything that's becoming for us to be doing as human beings. And a lot of that comes from anxiety of feeling out of control. So one thing I always tell people is if you feel out of control, find a project, find something that you can personally work and direct, that you can decide this is what you're gonna do. When this whole thing started with COVID, you know, I went from seeing clients in person to being home. I couldn't see anyone. I felt very stuck. I felt very out of control. Thankfully, in my personal life, I like storytelling. And so over the years, I've been working on writing and working on books. I can control that. I can decide what happens in a chapter, you know, how the direction goes, how the scene looks, and it seems like a small thing, but it gives you something that you can look back on, and it gives you that satisfaction of, hey, I did this, but it also allows you to look at it and go, okay, I can't control how things are going at work, but at least I can control this one area in my life. So the last thing I just want to say is first of all, you know, one thing for anxiety, always give yourself time to relax and to unwind. I think there's this thought that when it comes to anxiety, we just got to push through it. It's not how anxiety works. You have to sometimes kind of let it take its course. And one of the best things you can do is keep yourself in a healthy state, mentally and emotionally, so it doesn't build up and it doesn't become unmanageable. And the last thing I want to just say is, you know, you're not in this alone. I think a lot of people right now, again, feel very disconnected. They feel very alone in what's going on. And I want to reassure you that you're not. You know, one of the advantages we have in Broome County is there's so many agencies and people and services we do have available. You know, there's ACBC and New Horizons and Fairview for substance use. We've got MHAST, right, and all the services they provide. There's Catholic Charities, there's Family and Children's, there's Mothers and Babies, right, DSS. We have so many agencies that are willing to work with people on a numerous of issues, whether it be mental health, substance use, housing, family and relational concerns, financial issues, transportation. I mean, there's so many things. So one of the big things I would really encourage you, you know, is reach out for support, right? And in your personal life, find people that want you to do your best, right? Who want to see you succeed. Don't settle for people that are going to put you down and just use you and leave you in the dust. You know, find people who want to see you succeed just as much as they want to see themselves succeed, right? I always tell clients the support network you have around yourself is going to determine, in my opinion, really what makes or breaks you moving forward. We like to think we're all Superman and that we can do everything alone. Maybe you can, but I think it makes life so much more difficult. So I want to thank just MHAST and everyone involved in this project for just giving me the ability to share with you guys for a couple minutes. I hope I gave you guys some practical advice and hopefully gave you guys some encouragement.
I'm Keith Leahy. I'm the Executive Director for the Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier. I want to thank all of you for joining us with our Men Who Care campaign. Thank you to our chefs who have been generous with their time and, more importantly, to share their own personal stories and ways that they go about practicing wellness. We'd like to thank our wonderful staff of the Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier. We'd like to thank our sponsors whose generosity allowed us to put together this year's Men Who Care. We hope that you all stay safe, and we hope to see you at Men Who Cook 2021.
The Mental Health Association is devoted to enhancing the lives of all community residents by improving their mental health and wellness. Our goals are achieved through advocacy services, educational presentations, prevention programs, information, and resource referrals. Please consider supporting the association as we remain ready to support our community in their time of need. For more information, visit MHAST.org. mentalhealth.org. This project was completed with private funding for this purpose only. No operational or program funding was used.